what you basically said also, but I just want to, emphasize it, is you can live in peace and harmony. There's so many different degrees of different choices, as long as they match the frequency you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you cross over, this is about ascension. It gives you more choices. So the point that I understand, and it's free will choice, but that souls always want to evolve. And that includes source
Right.
and creation. And the way, not the easiest way, to evolve a soul, i.e., make it stronger, is through hardships. Is that fair to say?
Yes, but through those hardships, you learn purification. So now we've gone full circle. You
Okay.
learn to purify the trauma that you've endured in order to become either neutral or into the love and light. I am not bashing the love and light crowd, guys, like, but there is a toxicity to it when it comes to being over on the way scale of being like, I am better than you because I am enlightened, because love and light protects me, because all this other stuff. That is not what love and light is about. Love is, again, about sharing, about compassion. Light is about communication, it's about knowledge, it's about tolerance and acceptance of being neutral. So, it's a literally, if you're not sharing your knowledge and you're just hoarding it, that's becoming toxic. So, we all have to work together. And there's the people on the opposite ends of the spectrum who don't want to evolve, who are just, and that's fine. Being neutral, that's fine. Everyone has their own way of doing things and their own time of evolving. Not everyone's going to evolve the same time. So if they wish to be like that, that's fine. But as long as they are not overstepping, because that's when you break the balance. Neutrality is about keeping that balance within certain wavelengths. Overstepping those bounds, we can control that overstepping. Evil on this planet is not usually born. Okay, there are genetic defects and stuff like that, but it's rare. It's usually created because lack of compassion,
Yes.
lack of self-identity, lack of community, and lack of direction.
And early trauma in an environment that is.
Trauma is going to always happen. I have yet to meet, except for 2 people who did not have a traumatic childhood. Either they were raped, molested, their parents were abusive. It's a normal fact of life. But what are we going to do about it?
Of life here. We need
Of
to
life here on this
clarify.
planet. What are we going to do about it? You can't control everything, but you can control how it affects you. There is help out there to cope with your trauma. My trauma of being in the projects is not going to be the same as everyone else who is in the projects. I coped differently than everybody. We might share the same basics of the trauma again. Someone who gets into a car accident is going to have always different outlooks on that trauma and how to cope with that trauma. So, same with soldiers. Soldiers are always going to have a different coping mechanism. Hopefully it's not drugs and alcohol. It's not the healthiest. Running away is not coping, okay?
Right.
So you need to
Well,
talk about it.
and your point with the love and light too is what's in that community. Spiritual up leveling is a term used where the human nature doesn't want to look at anything that's uncomfortable or negative because they think they're going to create it. That's the thing, because there's this thing, what you focus on, you create. I've learned to disagree with that. What you focus on, if you can stay neutral, you actually gain information from. And actually when you have enough information, at first it's really scary, and you go through all these steps like, whoa, because your perspective has been knocked down. But when you get to a certain point of having the overview, the eagle eye, the perspective that Apollymi are so good at sharing, my fear dissipates. It dissipates with that knowledge.
Knowledge is power. So for what most people may not understand, what you're talking about is a law of attraction. They see all this negative stuff. Oh, I was watching, stuff on YouTube about all these car accidents, and then I got into a car accident. I must have attracted it to me. It can psychologically get into you and energy-wise attract to you, but that's because you're wanting it to attract to you, whether you're conscious of it or not. You're sucking it in. And part of that is understanding the energy manipulation that will be taught in the book. How do you not be so empathic that you suck everything into yourself? Because it does happen. Your
Well,
mind.
people are walking around in constant anxiety, is what they're
Mhm.
saying. They say if I watch something like that, it makes me anxious all the time,
Because they don't have control over it. There's nothing they can do about that particular situation, you know? And there's several different ways on that. There are people who will energetically suck in trauma to them because they want to help so bad. They don't even know they're doing it. We call these like super high empaths. And then the same thing will happen to them within a week or so. There are exercises energetically that you can do so you stop doing that, you
which you're
know.
going to teach in your manuals.
Yes, that I'm hopefully going to teach thoroughly in my manuals, because I am one of those people. I have that ability, and it sucks. So, no pun intended.
Yeah. That's what I hear mostly on the table, especially from a larger percentage of women, but also men, is they came in as empaths. And I'm like, bad idea for Earth, but glad you're here because we really need you. That's my line, right?
Yeah,
And so,
and being an empath is like the worst on this planet. Nobody, I can't say nobody. There are a lot of people who are not true to themselves. A lot of empaths feel like they can't trust people because they're not getting the truth of what is in a person's heart versus what's coming out of their mouth. So they have trust issues, So I'm getting kind of sidetracked, but the laws of attraction can happen with that. Again, a lot of super empaths create that around them. But there are exercises you can do to stop that and take control of yourself. You cannot take control of the entire environment around you all the time. The only thing you can do is control yourself. That's it. And that's what everyone needs to focus is on themselves. You cannot help others until you yourself are centered. Otherwise, you're both going to drown. In some aspects, some people don't want to change. But I find a lot of people just don't know have the knowledge to change. They don't know what to do. How do I even change this? I have a bad habit of a behavior, like, or maybe they have like bad habits, like, oh, I'm so busy all the time, but they were just sitting there on their phone not doing anything. They're like, I don't know how to change this. I'm addicted, or I have a really bad habit of being too judgy of someone. How do I change this? How do I curb this tendency? And most of it is the lack of knowledge. Because, oh, take someone who has one of those tendencies and they want to change. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the support system, they have no guidance, they have no direction. It is so hard to do something on your own when you don't even know where to begin. It's just easier not to change. How people are very judgmental about themselves and that they had to be hard, but still having to be harsh on themselves for truth.
oh,
That is
ruthless self-honesty. Yeah.
that is neutral. Okay. When you need to reflect on yourself, being like, oh, I've been having a bad attitude lately, people don't want to hang around me. I don't know why I don't have any friends. Normally I'm this reality check to my friends because I'm a very blunt person. I let them be them until they are like, why they start asking those questions. Why doesn't people want to be around me, or why is this happening? And then I just let them have it full bore. I'm not nice, okay? I'm like, you're selfish, you only focus on yourself. You're not understanding that there are other people around you who have other opinions, who have other talents, other, wanting to do stuff. Communication, it's all about you and not about everyone else. I'm very mean. But when we are focusing on ourselves to understand what is really going on, because everyone is so into what everyone else thinks about them, the last thing they think about is, I need to talk to myself.
Self-reflection, self-inquiry.
Self-reflection is so important. It should be the first thing
Yeah.
you ever do before seeking outside advice,
And the first thing parents should teach kids,
which never happens,
which hardly
ever.
ever happens on this planet.
Right. So when you're self-reflecting, you need to be harsh on yourself. If you know in your heart that your attitude or your way of thinking or doing things is wrong, you need to acknowledge that. It might necessarily not be your fault because the way you were raised, or, habits that your family has, habits that the community has, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to act like that or feel the same way. Normal things like you're in high school and you're trying to get into the in crowd, but what you're doing doesn't feel right. Okay. You need to self-reflect. Is the attitude I'm having or the actions I am taking or the person I'm becoming, is that really who I want to be? Is there another way that I can achieve this without feeling out of place or guilty or feeling like I'm losing my own identity through this? You have to have that logic and emotion. So be very harsh and critical on yourself, but don't dive into the depression or anxiety of it. And that's the scariest thing for most people. They don't like what they see in the mirror. And so they continue on what they're doing because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know where to go. They want to fit in. They want to do this and that. And, but there's other ways of doing things. So,
You were saying doing right here, and I found for my own head, because often the words we use, we react to. So when to detach yourself, that just because you're doing something wrong is not the whole picture of who you are as a soul, right? So I think that's the problem. That's where people go downhill and the program that they're not enough. So even using the word, like you said, I think it's really great to go, instead of I am selfish, to go, I'm doing selfish, aren't I? And that removes a little, do you know what I mean? It's like it empowers yourself, that you're not limited and defined by it, but you're conscious that you're doing it. And do you still want to continue? So just doing something like that,
right.
shift things.
And it needs to happen on a daily basis. I caught myself the other day being kind of super cynical. I have a cynical nature and I'm working on it. But, I was being super critically cynical when a friend came to me for help, and it wasn't the right cynicism that they needed at that point in time. I had to recognize what I was doing and bite my tongue. I'd been like, I'm being too judgmental, too cynical about their actions and what they need. I self-reflected and been like, okay, I need to calm down. This is why I am being cynical. Had nothing to do with the person who was in front of me. I needed to remove that from myself and focus on the person that was in front of me and what they needed from me at that point in time.
I believe most people are more intuitive than they think, right?
Mm.
And most language is not verbal. So even if you're trying to be on good behavior, if you're looking like this, or yeah, I'm listening, or whatever, they know, right?
Yeah, the energy comes off of you, and a lot of people could feel that. So if you're trying to be there for someone, or you're talking to someone and you're just not there emotionally, you're not there mentally, they're gonna feel like they're being ignored. you know and it's okay to say, like, man, I am just drained, I am not all here today. Can we talk about this later?
Exactly. Is there any last thing you want to talk about regarding the toxic side of self-serving ego, or false love light, and emotion logic balance, and neutrality needed for our ascension?
So for toxic ego is basically when someone gets on their high horse and they think that they have all the answers, that they're above everybody else, but they put on that false facade of caring, or it's the other side where they're just like, I don't care what you think, the love and light, the love and light and falsely enlightened crowd, they will give off toxic ego. And it's the, I'm better than you because I'm enlightened. You go your way and be you, and then internally, they're judging everyone. That is not a neutral or enlightened sense of view. That is, I am starting to possibly get there, or they're just using it as a mask. I am very blunt. So, but this is what I have seen in a lot of the communities. And not everyone does it. Like in the communities I come across, maybe like 10%. Okay. I'm not saying everyone in Love and Light has this ego issue. Just saying like 10% of them, they need to reevaluate. A lot of the enlightenment toxic ego is, I'm better than you, I'm evolved more than you, I have all the answers, I have all of this knowledge, I'm basically, it's a snooty version of trying to be enlightened, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. And you can see this in like their written text and the way that they project to themselves. I do not have all the answers. I do not claim to have all the answers. I mean, yes, I am an evolved being, like past fifth dimension. Does that make me perfect? Oh, hell no. I still make mistakes. I still have a lot of learning to grow, so I'm not even claiming that.
Yeah.
But what else was I going to say? Oh, so like you have that group, and it's just that they have to work past that ego boundary. I'm hoping that they're doing the right stuff to ascend, and ego is always never going to be removed. I want to make that 100% clear. Your ego is not going anywhere. It is part of your conscious collective. It is part of your essence of your soul. Without it, you wouldn't even exist. Okay? But there are ways that you can manage it and make it helpful to you. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have this, the dark, evil ego, self-serving. Self-serving can be productive. It can help you. But when you get too far over, and I've had some students do this, which is why usually I don't take students unless they're physically here, because then I can we can get that ego in check when they get to that point. This is God mode ego, okay? This is, I am enlightened, and I have, no one is more powerful than me. I can do
Follow
everything.
me.
Uh, I could do everything, and nobody has control over me. I get to do what I want. I'm going to be a dick to this person because I can, and they can't do anything about it. You are just literally waiting for a bigger fish in the sea to come on along and eat you and put you in your place. Don't do it. This is the world revolves around me. The universe needs to bend to my will. That tree over there is going to move because I'm going to walk in a straight line, and that thing has to move in my reality, but it's not going to. That is a super toxic side of self-serving ego, and there is a lot of it on this planet.
And bullying.
Oh my God, I don't even.
Bullying
But
is one of the biggest. Yeah.
um, but ego is important. It is important side of consciousness, to self-serve in a harmonious way, there are times and events where you need to think you're a god or you will fail. Oh, I got into an accident. I am going to take control of my reality. I'm going to heal myself. Nothing is going to hurt me. That is self-serving in a good way. Or I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make this happen. It is going to come to me. I am going to gather all this energy and make good things happen for me. That is self-serving in a good way. The love and light crowd in a good way is compassion, understanding that your opinion, your way, that's one thing. The love and light and enlightenment crowd, you have to do this enlightenment this way. That is the only way that you're going to get it, is the way that I experienced. That is not true. There's several ways to enlightenment. Everyone has to take their own path. Understanding that not everyone is going to experience the same event the same way, and that you cannot be very judgmental on everyone's experience. Everyone has a right to have a voice. It might be wrong in some aspects, but it will always have truth.
That's beautifully, beautifully said. Now, I do remember, I thought this was profound. I never thought of it this way. In our pre-talk, you said emotions are the twin of consciousness.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So in the divine creation, most people will understand this as like the twin serpents of the Kundalini or the Caduceus. You have the golden spiral, which I talk about in my book, and then you have the silver spiral, which I also talk about in my book. They are the opposite side of the same coin. So in consciousness creation, you will have emotions and consciousness and thought. Like, they are all one and the same. Your soul, your spirit, your consciousness will always have emotions and thought. Emotions and thought are two different things. They are not the same. You are feeling and communicating with something through certain vibrations, while thought is a focused, directed form of communication. And they travel at the same dimensions. So this is why light speak can travel halfway across the galaxy in a matter of like snap. So versus like a
And it's
broadcast.
thought and emotion together. Boom.
So when you have the highest amount of light speak and you can receive that, you are receiving emotions. You are receiving possibly thoughts of like words to translate, and you're receiving pictures of what the person's feeling or experiencing. So those are all the same. And they're both the same side of the coin.
Fascinating. I've never heard it that way. Now, how does intuition fit into that?
Intuition is your consciousness expanding past itself to the outside consciousness of your environment and the people around it and the universal consciousness. And so say you have the intuition that your best friend just got hurt, or they're in the need of your help. Maybe they had a bad breakup. We're on that topic today for some reason, just because it's so common, you know, or that, maybe even they have a surprise for you and they're like, I have a surprise for Marilee. There's a gift coming to her. I don't want anyone to tell her, but you get that inclination of like, Apollymi has.
What are you up to?
Yeah. Without saying anything, you have that. And then of course, like a package arrives. That is because I would be light speaking unintentionally, but light speaking to you. And because I'm thinking of you, that energy is going to you. And your intuition is picking that up. Your sensors for the environment of energy is picking that up. That'd be your aura. It'd be your thymus and your pituitary.
And then would it also be, since it's science has discovered that we have brain cells or the enteric brain in our stomach and stuff, so to speak,
Right.
our solar plexus or chakras, does it also come from there too?
Yeah, like saying you're getting like, oh man, I've got this bad feeling, like I'm about to go on stage and this is gonna turn out terribly, or like we're going on a field trip and been like, man, we're something's gonna happen. You know, it's all still the same thing. It's just different organs can be susceptible, to certain things. Like, say that your spouse or whatnot is having like a really bad day and you're gonna get in a fight and your heart's like, man, I've just got this feeling something's gonna happen, or you got a bad feeling in your gut when you're going on a trip or something and been like, I'm not walking out that door. Something's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I am not walking out that door. I've got a gut feeling. You're still receiving information the same. It's all the same, but every chakra is connected to a physical organ and they vibrate on different frequencies. So certain organs are going to pick up certain frequencies more than others.
Okay, so since we were speaking about intuition, one of the subscribers' questions was, how can I tell if someone's lying?
So there are obviously body languages that certain people have when they lie. Eye movements, facial expressions, tall tale signs is what we call poker face, poker face reading. Energetically, though, if you are sensitive enough, you can tell someone's lying because the frequency of their heart is not the same as the frequency of their mind. It is a telltale sign that they are speaking untruthfully. So like the frequency of your brain waves would change, but your heart would change into a darker, more depressed color because your soul usually knows that it's not okay to lie. It's not natural for a lot of souls to lie. So you would be those energies would come through to your energy field and you would feel it in your heart area and your chakras, and then you'd be like, oh well, maybe this person isn't telling me the full truth. This is what we call light speak. Everyone has it. Some people are more susceptible and sensitive to it than others. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
You experience that as a skip in the heart, or
No,
be
that's a physical trait. A lot of CIA and FBI agents will know if someone's lying to them because they'll take their pulse, and when they ask them certain questions, your heart will actually skip a beat.
oh,
For
interesting.
someone like me who's really sensitive to pheromones, if I know that person well enough, like if they're my mate or my family member or my friends, and I know their sense of smell, your chemistry changes when you lie, whether you believe yourself or not. So that helps too.
I watched the beginning of the people who invented the lie detector, and they found that there was sweating, there were certain things, galvanic skin response, all that kind of thing. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so before we go to the next exciting part, I just want to sum up really quick because it's so fascinating. What I took the liberty of is, I'm like, how do we? I wonder, this thought came to me, I wonder how I could take the 5 principles of the Art of War by Sun Tzu and kind of slightly convert them into neutrality. Don't ask me why that, okay, because that is the textbook in the Art of War. So what about if we had the art of neutrality? That's what I was thinking, right? And of course, as Apollymi said, if your soul goes through the healing process of trauma by reaching forgiveness and neutrality, your consciousness becomes the antibody receptors for the universe. So if your soul learns to heal by receiving information and experiences in a more neutral, logical, observer like way, your consciousness to me, then becomes a wise, experienced antibody in this universe because it recognizes that which can cause harm and neutralize it. So even the word neutralize contains neutral. So I just wanted to throw, I mean, it took me 5 minutes to do this, and I was just having fun. The art of war shifted into the art of neutrality. So these are kind of the rules, but I shifted a couple words. Supreme intelligence and knowledge consists in breaking or ending the opposer's resistance without fighting. 2, stop ego-projected reactivity to possible opponents. Be proactive, not reactive. 3, honest assessment of strengths and weaknesses of self and others requires self-inquiry, and change is a necessary step for maturing your soul and actions. 4, learn adaptability and flexibility, not being rigid or stubborn, yet staying true to your authentic soul self. And 5, you succeed when your team is respectfully animated by the same coherent spirit.
That's pretty good.
You like that?
I have one thing to say though.
Yes.
In enlightenment, for true neutrality, you do not have to forgive anything.
Real? Okay, that was really important to find that out.
So, how do I put this? It was something
Wow.
that I had to experience on my own. There are certain actions that is so
Highness.
heinous to the
Yeah.
soul that you do not have to forgive somebody at all. However, in order to get over that trauma, you need to analyze, educate yourself on why this happened. You need to analyze yourself, you need to analyze the person who did this to you, and you might not have all the answers. And here's the hardest thing you are ever going to have to do. Justice may never be served, ever, on something. And that keeps a lot of people holding on to that trauma. You need to drop it.
Because they're attached to revenge also.
Yeah, it can lead to revenge, but just wanting that justice can cause you to hold on to it. So understanding why you were in that position, how you put yourself in that position, understanding the lessons that need to be learned from that so that you never put yourself in that position again. Or if you do, what can you do to get out of it and recognize the signs to keep yourself safe? Third is coming to terms with the mistake that you've made, or that the logic of why that person did what they did to you. And even though you might not understand them fully, you need to recognize what they've done. Go through it logically, go through it emotionally, and then when you come to the point where you just get to that point where you're just mad about the whole situation or sad about it, that is the point where you've overthought everything, you've worked everything through mentally and emotionally, you just need to drop it. Just been like, okay, it's done and over with. Justice may never be served, but I can't hold on to this anymore because it doesn't serve me any good. And you just have to let it go. You do not have to forgive them. Forgiving is like a cheater's way of being like, okay, well, if I force myself to think I have to forgive them because it's the right thing to do, whatever it is, it's kind of like an scapegoat where I call it brainwashing,
Mhm.
just being like, I have to forgive them. I have to forgive everyone. I have to be nice. You just have to be neutral. So just coming to terms with everything, working through your trauma and just dropping it when that time comes, it's still going to clear your karmic debt. It's going to still keep you neutral, and it's not going to bother you anymore because you've worked through it all versus just being like, I just have to forgive them. Whatever they did, I just have to forgive them. Forgiving does not work out your problems. It's just a shield.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought this up because that is so important. I assume that you have to forgive for your karmic load to drop.
Mm-mm.
But you're saying you don't have to forgive, but you do have to do the self-responsible processing so you can let it go.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Because once you learn to analyze yourself, you know, you learn from your mistakes, you learn from the event that happened, because obviously an event is two-sided. It's your side and their side. So you don't have to understand everything that happened or why they did it, because sometimes you're not going to. You know, like the forest fire happened, you know, and I had a traumatic experience. You just have to work on your side. Um, but it will release that karma because you've learned to grow past it. You've learned to come to terms with it. You've integrated it into yourself. You're emotionally and mentally worked through it. You're stable. And then just dropping it is the hardest thing.
Yeah. So dropping it, does that mean it never arises in your mind again? Or
Oh,
does it?
no, it can totally arise in your mind, but it's not going to trigger you. It's not going to affect you. Been like, oh, yeah, I remember this happening. Yeah, okay, the thought's gone. Because you've already worked through it. There's no trauma left for it to hold on to. And dropping it has literally been like, I've done everything I can to cope with this, to come to terms with it. I'm just letting it go. It serves no purpose for me anymore. And you'll
Okay.
know you're ready at that time because you won't feel sad. You won't feel anxious. You won't feel regret or pain. And then it's just, there's other things that need to be on your mind and you just drop it. Can take months, but you know.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's one of the most important things you've shared. I just assumed we had to actually forgive, but I can see that what you're doing is you're lessening or dropping the charge in the weight, charge in the body and weight in the energy. So that's why you can still ascend, right? You're not
So
triggered
say,
by that.
yeah, so say someone like one of your friends stole something from you and you just like forgive them. But you're using the word as an analogy to just be like, oh, this is over with, but you still have all that emotion and all that logic to think over. It's a shield. It's not really fixing anything, and then you're bagging that karma still on. You can be like, I forgive you, which is a giving energy all you want, but it's all still there unless you have that ability just to drop things and go through process everything individually, like in seconds.
Mhm. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So important. Now I went to celebrate Apollymi, who, for those of you who've watched all our shows, remember that she is Saint Bridget in
Ah.
past life. And today of this show is February 1st, which is Imbolc. So want to celebrate and thank you so much for all you did in that life. Because I know it was a lot and you lost your children and so many things. But this is your day and thank you. So in the style of Imbolc and kinfolk and celebrating, I would love for you to share the experience or the stories that I know you've had experience with all different kinds of beings, but the one, the Satyr and the Pan and the Sapphire mountains close by where you live would be wonderful just to share with people.
So I was with my dad and my one of my well, his friends, and it was Christmas time. We went up to the Sapphire Mountains, which is in Montana, for cutting down a Christmas tree. They had permits. So, and we were out in the forest area. There's a lot of pine trees up in that area. And I felt a presence that was very familiar. And I know that there is satyrs up in that mountain occasionally. They're a lot more dimensional, but they can actually become physical. There's been a couple sightings like reported and whatnot. We went out there and there was at least like 5, 6 of them that I could feel. And then Pan actually came in himself for dimensionally, but we actually saw footprints in the snow that were bigger than deer, which was pretty cool because like
Yeah.
I could feel him, and I was like standing next to him. I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, because the entities, they were the satyrs, they were watching us. They're like, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" And I'm like, we have a permit. We can cut down a tree. You know, it's Christmas time for humans, so we're not going to hurt anyone, or we're not, you know, overly doing anything wrong, because they are protectors of the forest, especially with other entities who can, you know, reach out and touch things, because there's gates over there too. There's portals. And I was like, man, if I could activate those, I'd just walk right on through. But
Now, were the other people you're with, were they as open and intuitive as you, or were you?
no, no, they were straight up just normal humans. Me and my dad were the only ones who could actually feel anything. And I walk up to my dad and I'm like nudging him, and I was like, "Do you feel that?" He's like, "Yeah, Pan's here." Didn't even tell him anything, absolutely nothing. He just knew. I was like, "Okay, I just wanted to double check," because I like to cross-reference a lot.
Exactly. Now,
So,
did your friends who were more normal, did they see the prints actually in the snow?
yeah, we actually pointed out the prints to them, because my dad and I saw them, and I was like, those aren't deer prints. They're pretty big. I mean, we're talking like they yeah, they were cloven hooved, and they were pretty big. And
Oh,
mountain goats don't usually reside on that side of the mountains. They're usually far more towards the bison range area, where the Native American land is. So, and it's a little lower elevation for them. And so we're like, but there was also an entity standing right there in the same hoof prints for me. So I
that's
was like,
so cool. That is so cool. Now, I'm not sure if you're comfortable saying this, but I imagine he knew who you were.
Pan and I have had a interesting like friendship, I guess you would say. He seemed to know a lot more about me than I knew about him, and he just randomly shows up occasionally. So
Aha.
the first time I met him is when I was a kid, again in the Sapphire Mountain areas. He's got a couple territories over here, which I thought was really weird, because like I don't remember, most of his territory is over towards like Ireland and Roman areas. So he kind of travels everywhere.
That would make sense. That would make sense. But he might, since this is all in bulk though, as Bridget, did he ever know you
I do not know.
before the Fae Wars? You're not sure? Okay.
If it possibly, but I don't really have any full
Because
recollection.
that's what I'm getting intuitively.
Yeah. I mean, he is a fake king, so
Oh, okay.
he does have his own kingdom.
Which is where? Do we know?
It's in another dimension. It's
Okay.
one of, when the veil got put down here, you know, all of the phase, a lot of the phase, they ended up going to the higher dimensions, because they didn't want to be here with the veil being put up. I should have went. I regret not going, but
So how long did you converse telepathically?
about a good 15 minutes.
Oh, cool. So he obviously didn't mind you taking the tree then.
Well, it wasn't me chopping down the tree, it was the other people.
Uh-oh. Uh-huh. But that is so cool. That is so cool. Now, is there centaurs there too?
Not in this area. There has been rumors of centaurs closer to some of the Native American reservation lands.
A couple of towns away.
Yeah.
Now I
We'll actually hopefully be going hunting, ghost hunting slash paranormal hunting over in those areas to see if we can't make contact. There's been rumors of centaurs, Bigfoot, and even satyrs over there. So
so fun. Oh yeah, it's definitely Sasquatch country. I felt over there too, for
yeah,
sure.
so,
And I
so
know
we're
that the American Indian elders, the indigenous people, have had long time contracts to not talk about Sasquatches, Elvins, Fae,
Yeah.
ancestors as mutual protection. Is that correct?
I've heard rumors, but I don't have enough information to divulge anything. All I know is like when we go over there, being part Fae myself, like we're gonna be bringing offerings.
Good idea.
So yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Um, Now you did tell me you didn't personally experience it, but it cracked me up because it's so pan. You did tell me about what some people said in a bar a couple towns down. American Indians told you. Just mentioned.
Yeah, we ended up having an interview with one of the natives on you can actually find that one on Galaxy of Unity. But if I remember correctly, he does talk about um one of the satyrs likes to go to one of the bars and looks human, but if you're an energy manipulator and you can see true sight of dimensional beings, you can tell that he's a satyr, and he definitely likes the ladies, apparently, from what he said. So I'm like, I kind of want to go to this bar. I don't go to bars, but like, be like, just so I can
We'll
talk.
have to do that sometime. That'll be fun. Well, they don't call it pansexual for nothing, do they?
Right? If they like you, man.
And so, does he leave with human women? Like,
They
kind
didn't say.
of, woohoo! Okay. Speaking of hybrids, right? Now,
Right?
well, thanks for sharing those. So, folks, you've probably watched the show I had earlier with Super Soldier David Lotherington, who shapeshifts into a lichen, which is a wolf, wolf humanoid species for battle, and he explained all the details of how he does that. So, I would like you, Apollymi, to share what you know about the lycanthrope viruses, because you mentioned that to me on a show a long time ago. I mean, not on a show, on a phone call, and it was fascinating. So, can you share that info for people?
So people need to understand that there are like there is an ET species of what people would call like dogs. They're caninus type creatures. Everyone can think of Anubis,
Oceans,
like
yeah.
the full anthro form. Just like the Choksuri and like the Kuite. Choksuri are the blue avian bird people that, and then the Kuite are actually golden mantoids. There are animalistic ETs out there. Same with the cats, like most people would understand them as the Lyarians, or the Katai. So those species are not viral. They are naturally born creatures. They're not really hybrids of any kind. They just evolve naturally. And then there are certain viruses out in space that mutate to genetics. And this is where a lot of super soldiers can come in, where they get injected with this virus or they'll tweak their DNA with it. Um, it is a little bit more aggressive than just going in and snippeting DNA for like a thropy, or not thropy, sorry, a caninus creature with a human if the genetics do not bond very well and they can't get them to bond very well. They can use the virus that will actually cause them to genetically shift into these creatures. And it's not just dogs. The virus is a binding, like it binds to your DNA and it can be tagged with many other species. So we're talking dragons, we're talking cat-like, we're talking bird-like. The birds are interesting. you know
Mhm.
it's usually a very controlled virus just because of how contagious it can be, but they can shut off the contaminant ability if it's a genetically formed contaminant.
Contagious
So,
like sex or
huh?
like semen or kissing or just touching? How is it contagious? Just in the air?
Uh, Normally the normal virus can be pretty contagious to where if you get bitten or kissing, like really kissing, you know, or intimate. It can be transferred. Any ET species who uses it as a binding agent, usually they shut it off. They shut the contamination off. So,
Is
go
that
ahead.
called a throat B virus?
So thropy is, yeah, technically just like the virus stage itself, or it means it's just transmittable. I mean, you got lycanthropy and catthropy, and well, most people call it catthropy, you know, or just things like that. So of course it's in space, it's called something different. Thropy is a human terminology, not a outer space terminology.
Interesting. Okay. And
It's
then
not
you mentioned there's a species in France too.
uh the species the species in France is actually, they'd only turn, okay, so the thropy ones are usually anthropomorphic. They do look, it's like the draconians versus like dragons, okay? Most dragons are on all fours or whatnot. Draconians are, they can be on all fours comfortably, but they also stand bipedal and can comfortably stand up and use their hands for whatever tinkering that they need to. The same for the thropy virus. They're usually more bipedal than anything. They can use on all fours if they wish. The ones in France that are in the legend and lore, they are actually a sentient creature that usually comes from outer space. We had them on Mars. They are very verbal talking, although they do have an accent, so they can talk. They're intelligent, no different than a human for conscious communication or thought processes. We also had these cat versions on Mars as well, when Mars was actually habited before the scar on it happened, uh, when I was basically judging it. So I am not 100% sure if some of those genetics came over here during the evacuation, because some of their kind did get evacuated, but they could also be related to some of the puka, which is a fake creature. But the ones in France only turn into actual wolves. There is no bipedal transformations.
Wow. Do you know what area of France?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's it's like one of the smaller town areas, if I remember correctly.
And then around your area also, it's been known, at least in the Navajo nations, that they have what's called skinwalkers or shapeshifters. So you have some of those too?
There have been random reports of certain creatures. I think most of them think that they're Bigfoot. My my dad and one of my college friends, they were going up Rattlesnake at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was summertime. It was nice out. I ended up having to work, so I couldn't go with them. But they ended up reporting that they got chased out. They found this cabin back in like 10 miles back in the woods that was abandoned, and there was something following them, quite a few things following them all the way back. And you know, my dad's an energy user. He can sense other dimensional beings, but this was physical, and my friend saw it too. It was black, very tall, about 6-7 foot tall, definitely furred, and they could hear wolves occasionally howling. We have wolves up here, not that big of a deal, you know, but they ended up getting chased out by these bipedal creatures that would run on all fours and then run on bipedal, and they had black fur on them with yellow eyes.
It'd be
And
dogmen too. Or you think it would?
yeah, something. There is like really rumored, you know, stuff of like fae being seen out there, fairies, Bigfoot, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So they're
And
not, they didn't quite 100% get a good look at it, but he was
and
just,
and so they were actually being run after.
yeah.
Where did they escape to?
They ran down the trail all the way out of there and they didn't stop.
Whoa. Whoa. I bet. Did anyone stay behind? Like you, no, they're like, okay. Because would you have been eaten, or were they just mostly scaring them out of the territory? Because that's their territory.
Have absolutely no idea. They didn't stick around to find out.
Oh, understandable. Because they got the feeling like we're not wanted, we're not wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to throw, before we do the last 4 questions from subscribers, I'm going to throw a sneaky question your way, since we're
Sneaky
talking about
question.
shape shifting. So, how do you shape shift into a dragon?
Well, it's not for the faint of heart. It is painful, considering your bones rearrange. But it's easier when I'm off world, just because there's a lot more prana and I'm not as hungry afterwards. So I've only shapeshifted on a couple missions up in space. Like I have my wings and my tail and my second set of ears on my head, and the center of my shins will actually get a second, that has a second kneecap, and it will bend backwards, and same with like right here. And
Common
then
for
everything else will
reptilians.
kind of like shift and move into position. It is not very comfortable, especially when your face starts to grow out for your muzzle. But yeah. It's
Now,
really uncomfortable, huh?
is it literally like your bones are breaking all over the
Yeah, they're
place?
literally shifting. It's like going through puberty of growing pains within a matter of like 2 minutes. It's not very comfortable at all. There's like these gross sounds that kind of come with it too. Um, it happens also very fast. So your body's usually very warmer afterwards. But, and then of course, like all your senses like kick up.
And all your abilities are activated, obviously, from
My abilities don't change when I'm in those forms. They're no
okay.
different than
No, but
when
I
I'm
mean, you're not on Earth when you're out in space. They do doing your missions, right?
yeah, like when I'm out in space, but I have all my abilities out in space because they usually give us the shots to undo the suppression shots. So, and then they usually take our collar. Well, we're we don't have colors for section 13 anymore. We just have the augments in our brain, but
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that and how big's your dragon? Is that classified?
no, I'm still a young dragon, so I'm no bigger than the size of a house cat. But
Oh no, that's too cute. I'm picturing you as this huge dragon.
I do have the ability to shapeshift it at least to the size of a moose. So
That's more what I'm picturing, like that size.
yeah, that's about as big as I can get. I always have issues getting bigger than that.
Oh, well, that's young. Because you told us in previous shows that you surprised your entire team that didn't realize you could shapeshift into a dragon, and they started shooting at you, and you had to like protect yourself because they thought you were the enemy until you telepathized to them. So what size was that?
That was the size of the moose. So I was actually in combat, and I ended up going infiltrating one of the bases by myself, and I ran into one of the commanders of the regalia that knew me, and he kind of kicked my butt, not gonna lie. So I ended up getting pinned on the floor, and I was in my humanoid form with my wings and my tail and stuff, but and then he managed to make me very angry, and I actually transformed into my dragon form, which I've never done on any mission before. I always kept that very secret. And for some reason, the Chakrel also keep that very secret from Section 13. They knew I had dragon
Well, it's an
genetics,
ultimate weapon too. They don't want to reveal that to people.
I guess. They knew I had dragon genetics because I had my wings and my tail and my ears, but I never showed any signs of actual fully shapeshifting, to them anyway.
Oh,
And so when I fully shapeshifted, for some freaking tiny, but I ended up using, so my breath that I produce is this blue fire goo, and it burns in space. It does not go out in space, not very easily anyway, until the components are completely used up. And I shot that at the general commander guy, and I missed. I hit these containers of combustible whatever it was. It was like these containers were filled with like this liquid, whatever it was really flammable. And so he ended up escaping, and I got really mad. I got out of the base before everything else exploded, and all I remember is like, I am freaking tiny. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do much damage. And so
Okay.
I ended up, and it took a lot of concentration, but I ended up making myself bigger. And I remember flying, and thank God the air was denser because I'm not used to being in my dragon form. I'm not used to flying. Um, and I landed on this pine tree, and the pine tree kind of went like this. And all I remember is like, I am so happy right now. I'm in my dragon form. I haven't been in my dragon form in like years.
Oh,
And I'm like, do I want to go save my party members, or do I just want to fly around for a little bit? So I flew around for a little bit trying to get like the air denseness figured out. I couldn't really figure it out, so I had to psionically fly and
oh,
managed to make it over to the base where my group was held up in this base that went into the mountainside a little bit. And we were like, my group was running up this like barricade area. And all I remember is like me flying over pretty quietly. And they were like, dragon! That's all I remember them saying. Like this guy just pointed at me. He's like, oh my God. And they started firing on me. My team turned around, looked up, and was like, holy crap. And they started firing on me. And I have this psionic shield up, you know, just completely around me. And I'm just like flying there. And I'm like, are they going to stop anytime soon? And I'm like, oh, wait, maybe they don't recognize me, obviously. So to telepathically communicate to my team, I'm like, guys, it's me. Stop firing at me. Go, run, run. I'm your distraction. And they're
and they
like,
received that, obviously, because of their.
yeah, it took them a little minute. And I had one member who was like still concentrating on firing on me. And he's like, the other guy had to like literally punch him in the shoulder. And I'm
Snap
like,
out of
he's like, come on, let's go. So they went into the base, and I'm like sitting here blowing this like goo flame everywhere.
it.
So
You're
yeah,
spitting.
it's weird because like it comes from like a gland that's in your chest stomach area, and then you're like, I hate throwing up, like it is the worst thing for me. I will no. But it like you pressurize it, and then from like your coughing basically, and then it comes up, and then just kind of there's this like little like how do I put it, like this gland sacs that are just like right here, and then it like spits out, and then it just like ignites as soon as it hits certain atmospheric stuff. Like it combines with each other and just like is goo. It's like napalm.
Hydrogen based, right?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Blue fire. Yeah. Oh my God. So that was your welcome for, you're like having fun going, woohoo, I'm in my real body and figuring out how to fly and whatever. And you flew it psionically, which meant your mind ability overtook and directed it.
No, so to fly psionically, you're actually manipulating your electromagnetic field around you like the UFOs do. Because
Oh,
I couldn't fully, I'm still learning how to fly. So I'm like, the air density was a lot thicker, so it should have been easier for me to, but
yeah.
it helped out a lot. I just, I don't get the opportunity to train very much on that. So,
Plus, you didn't have a mother dragon teach you at an early age how to fly and do all that stuff.
no, but my brother told me that he was gonna tether me to a harness and fly me like a kite and figure out how to fly.
Oh, nice brother.
And I was like, thanks.
Oh my God. So that's the most detail of that. Thank you. I know people are just probably have their mouths open and gonna like really, really enjoy that. Thank you so much. Let's answer. I always like to keep up with the subscribers' questions. So we've got like 4 quickies. So Maggie wanted to know what happens to inner Earth during ascension. Are they part of the ascension process when the planet raises frequency or when a wipe happens?
Unless the wipe actually devastates the entire planet, cracks the Earth in half, no. Inner Earth is not part of the ascension process. It's only topside. I mean, you have a galactic dysphoria, so the consciousness of the planet's going to naturally raise. It will affect them too, but they are not contracted for the ascension. They are not part of the wipe.
Okay, so they can still exist, but all the surface stuff can be taken off, and hopefully most of the nature are all left behind.
But
Depends.
I mean, the most of the time when a super super wipe happens, they come down and reseed all the plants and stuff like that for the whatever species or like form that they're going to be putting down here for the experiment. So, excuse me.
Is that
So,
is that why they usually protect this planet really well from meteors? Because we know we can split meteors and redirect them. Well,
mhm,
I mean, the public doesn't know that, but we can, and we
yeah.
and we do. Um, so is that one reason they're protecting is also because of all the inner Earth kingdoms?
Yeah, the Inner Earth Kingdom actually protects Earth from a lot of the celestial events. In fact, we're actually supposed to have a meteor tomorrow, Friday,
Yeah,
actually come really close to Earth, but unless the Starseed Council gets the okay to let one come in, and a lot of the other councils are like, "Hey, we're just gonna let this happen," you don't really have to worry about it too much. Some of the small ones will end up coming in, but they're gonna divert the ones that are like life ending
yeah,
usually.
yeah. I feel like that too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a great answer. The dude is his moniker. Wanted to know if alchemy is used by other species and how it originated on Earth.
Yeah, alchemy is literally just science. That's it. They just called it alchemy because they didn't really know a whole lot in certain time frames of humanity. So, the forging process of certain elements and chemicals, absolutely, ETs use it all the time. In fact, ETs were the ones who came down here and taught humans how to do it. So,
Okay. And one that everyone's heard about is who is an alchemical master for sure is Merlin.
yeah, Merlin apparently knew quite a bit of alchemy. Again, it was always taught in a lot of the science arts. A lot of the old cultures, like Atlantis, some of the Sumerian cultures, they already had alchemy. So some of that knowledge always got passed down through certain like pagan religions or like
Druid.
native religions
Yeah.
or life paths, I should say, because they're not really religions, they're more of a way of life. So,
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Missy wanted more description of Paradise Isle spoken about in our earlier shows. Are you allowed to do that?
the Paradise Isles of Hanoa.
Mhm.
The Immortal Seven live there. That is one of their main territories. I'm not allowed to divulge anything more than that. That is 100% classified. Not
Okay.
saying I don't know the information. I just don't want to get my butt spanked.
Well, there's no paradise. Is there a Paradise Isle in our experimental universe? Because I was assuming I bet there is, because I was assuming she was asking about Hanova, but there probably is here, right? But that's classified too?
There is always something of that area in every universe. It is only for the creators of that universe. That's why I can't divulge what it is and
Okay.
what goes on there.
Okay, but at least we know that. That's a great question, Missy. Thank you for answering that.
Mhm.
And one last really quick question, even though people could have looked this up in Google. A couple of subscribers wanted to know what prana is. And
Huh.
of course, you're going to explain that in your Manual 1 book. But do you want to just quickly
Mhm.
give a quick sentence of what prana is for them?
So prana is kind of more of a wide term use. Many people know it as chi energy, ki, the life force. Uh, it is all scientific of quanta energy. It is basically the energy of the universe that everything is made out of. We all have the ability to manipulate it. It's within us. And once people unlock the ability to manipulate it, they can start taking control of their reality. What I mean, reality, I mean like the way you perceive things, the way things come to you, the way things interact with you. You don't become an almighty deity, but you're not gonna like shift yourself back in time. And we'll go over timelines later too, because I had this conversation with my roommate because he was listening to a podcast of like, oh, this writer had in his like world, if you traveled to the future and your young self died from that future, everything would just spontaneously explode into a nuclear bomb. I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Oh,
Because time is only relevant to itself, the timeline you're on, if you time travel, you're parallel universe jumping or parallel stream jumping or branch jumping, because the timeline you're in is still being written for what you do. And so the only way you can interact with your future self is to jump over to the next timeline.
oh,
So
fascinating.
anything you interact with over there, it's like having a duplicate of you, but you're not going to explode if you touch each other because your energy signatures are just ever so slightly off.
Okay, that's fascinating. Okay. Woohoo! All right. So, with the prana, you're going to teach in the manuals that you're writing. It involves something called the golden and silver spirals and prismatic convergent magnetism. So,
Mhm.
why don't you get people up to speed on the updates? Because you were working in our last show, you were working at getting Galaxy of Unity back up online, and how they can contact you or what's happening. Why don't you fill them in quickly on that?
Right. Galaxy of Unity is back. We just launched last Saturday. We have a new website that we're currently working on, so that might be like another couple days or so. However, our YouTube channel is, I deleted our last YouTube channel, so now we have another one. Our Galaxy of Unity icon has been redone. I personally find it a lot more catchy. Give us, what you think about it on our YouTube channel. We only have 2 videos out. We have our relaunch video and um our old intro video to our my God, my brain is just woo. Our old intro video to our interviews. We are mainly going podcast on Rumble, and we might go to a few other areas that aren't going to kick us off. We still have some of our social media websites, and we're going to be a lot more diligent about updating those within the next week. But so yeah, come check us out on YouTube. Once our website is fully up and running, we have all of our old episodes. We will be posting new ones. Our schedule is going to be changing for our drop dates of content just because we're under new guidelines of management now. Everything's explained in the intro video for the relaunch. But as for contacting me, with me still trying to write the book with our wonderful host, who's been pushing me and being like, "You're gonna sit down and do this." You've been absolutely awesome. I really appreciate all the help that you do. Um, I really don't have a lot of time to answer a whole lot of emails, especially of personal ones. There is instructions for people who have questions for me, for the Galaxy of Unity stuff. It's in the video for our relaunch, but I cannot really answer personal emails at this point in time just because we need to grind this book out as soon as possible.
Yes. Okay, that's great. And also, folks, please be patient, because due to extreme challenges, whew, especially this last month,
Ugh.
extreme challenges, we will not discuss Apollymi deals with as a super soldier on missions daily with no salary. We ask that you go to cosmicbrilliance.com and click on donations to offer any support, no matter how small, for our writing of the 2 manuals and continuation of her shows. And we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being part of the team. And we appreciate your interest in Apollymi, your generosity of time, and sharing of your wisdom and vast experiences in this 3-hour show that we'll probably break in half is wonderful. I just had a blast, and thank you, my love. And I want to leave everyone with a 2-word answer that I came across that Elon Musk gave to Science Girl's question when she asked him, "What is the most amazing thing you know?" And his response was 2 words: awareness awakening.
Hmm.
So with Awareness Awakening, which is the theme of all our shows, and today, we progress and ascend onwards and upwards. Thank you all. Until next time.